Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
Back from another fun weekend.
Absolutely. You know, our show in Racine was really fun on Friday. We saw so many people we know, number one. But number two, it was exciting because at the end of the night, we were talking about haunted hotels in Madison.
Ooh, yes, we were.
And so...
And other places.
But we have a hot tip, friends, if you stay in Madison, Wisconsin, to stay at the Ruby Marie Hotel. And It's over a German restaurant that Wendy and I have performed at before called the Essen House.
Yeah, they have good beer there.
Yeah.
And really good German food, too.
They do. And that's the place in Madison where you go, you got to order a boot, and you got to play the boot game.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you guys have not played the boot game, that's where... Now, if you just go with two people, I don't recommend...
you need a crowd.
I don't recommend just playing the boot... Don't take your first date out to the Essen House and play the boot game. But but the boot is, you get a group of people, everybody's sitting around in a circle, or at a table, which is kind of like a circle. And, then one person takes a drink, passes it on, and the boot can't touch the table, right?
I think so,
The boot cannot touch the table.
That's the rule.
Or you automatically
And it's heavy.
lose. Yeah, it's heavy because it's got like a liter of beer. And then...
I think it's more than a liter.
It's a boot.
It's like the size of an actual human boot.
It's a boot.
No,
it's a boot full. It's a boot. It's like a size 10.
And it's glass, so it's heavy.
Yeah. And so then it goes around, and the thing is, if you are the person after the person who finishes the boot, then you have to buy the next one. So it goes around, and you can't, you don't want to be the one who doesn't finish the boot. Oh, I can't remember all the rules.
It must be. I bet it's got to be the one after.
Usually by the time you get to the end of the second boot game, you don't remember the rules whatsoever.
We should probably go and investigate.
I believe.
Figure out what all the specific rules are at some point.
It's the thing is, Essen House is a lot of fun in Madison, and there's a haunted hotel over it.
Right. First do the investigation at the haunted hotel, then do the investigation at the German restaurant.
Right, otherwise you're going to get in trouble. Anyway, so that was fun talking about that kind of stuff this weekend. It's always good to hang out with the Raciniacs in Racine, Wisconsin, and play some rock and roll for them.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was fun, Wendy, and we're getting excited about our release party coming up in just a week and a half.
It's go time now.
It's our Friday the 13th spectacular in Madison. So if you guys are anywhere in the Midwest, it would behoove you to come up and party with us in Madison that day. We'll have that information on othersidepodcast.com. You can see that there.
But we're within that 2-week window, so this is where the frenzy of excitement and activity begins.
Right. This is where we're working hard to make the show like the most special thing we've done all year. So that is exciting. Not quite as exciting as the news that came out of Mexico this week, though.
Yeah, that was big.
Puerto Vallarta, which I always thought was I always wanted to go to Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, it sounds beautiful.
People were always like using, on Wheel of Fortune, once you're done, once you're the winner, then you get to go, get to go buy the stuff. Sometimes they could buy a trip to Puerto Vallarta. And when I was a kid, I was like, that sounds so exotic and magical.
Yes. It still does.
It still does, especially if you're a cult leader.
Oh.
So that's what we're talking about today, guys. We're talking about Keith Raniere and the secret mind control sex cult, NXIVM.
Oh, boy.
He had Hollywood celebrities in his cult. Famous people have taken his seminars. NXIVM is something that I would have loved to take, to tell you the truth. But
Mike.
Okay, no, I'll tell you why. We'll go into it.
But it's spelled with it's all spelled in Haxor spell, right?
NXIVM.
So it looks like a Roman numeral or something.
And before we get to what this guy's been accused of and all of the nasty things about the cult, we got to talk about what it actually said that the business they were selling.
Okay, so we're getting right into it.
Yes.
NXIVM, not the acid reflux medication.
But it was something that I would totally be into, and that is like a self-help program.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, me too.
They called it executive success programs.
And Mike, you and I, we love the Tony Robbins.
We do. It's like a Tony Robbins thing. And that's absolutely something that if I saw it, it's like, oh yeah, make your life better. And we're going to
personal improvement.
Yeah, I totally would have been all about that. It's personal and professional development seminars. And I've gone to personal and professional development seminars in my time. I haven't paid
Oh, you have?
Yes, I have. I haven't been to the Tony Robbins one, that like $5,000 or whatever.
I want to do the firewalk.
I do. I want to do the firewalk. I'm Tony Robbins to encourage
so
me
cool.
with those big banana hands. He's got clapping and everything.
And those giant teeth.
But no, I love that stuff. And I know that we love self-help stuff. We read the books and things like that. And so this thing, it looked like I said, I would like to take it because I thought it'd be a cool thing before I knew, what was going on in there. And it's not just...
And it's so crazy.
And it's not just me that thought that NXIVM might be a cool thing. Richard Branson, the man behind Virgin Airlines, Virgin Records.
He did all right for himself.
Yeah, he took it. Linda Evans from Dynasty has taken the NXIVM course. Sheila Johnson, the co-founder of Black Entertainment Television, took the course. Antonio Novella is a former Surgeon General of the United States, has taken the course. A guy from Enron, well, I probably wouldn't be bragging about that. If I'm from Enron, I probably wouldn't be like, oh yeah, I went to NXIVM. The daughter of the Mexican president, Vicente Fox.
Wow.
I just saw him on Bill Maher the other day, actually.
Ah.
But his daughter took the NXIVM. So it must have done something for somebody.
Yeah.
And they sponsored the Dalai Lama's visit to Albany, New York in 2009.
That's a big one.
Yeah. I mean,
I want to go to that.
Right. And the Dalai Lama, they love him in Madison. The Dalai Lama is he gets out here once a decade.
Yeah.
And
frequently.
Well, we have a center for meditation studies here in Madison.
Right. And we also have in the Madison area, we have the Deer Park Buddhist Center and Monastery, which is a very well-renowned center.
All right.
For that kind of study. So yeah, actually, Mike, one of the years when I went up to Minneapolis at the Minnesota State Fair, I took a bus and I was sitting next to a, I guess, whatever the female version of a monk is.
A monkette. I don't know if they have gender specific. I don't know if they have gender specific nouns for monks.
There is a name for it.
Okay.
But
it's not monkette.
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
Anyway, I sat next to this woman and we started chatting and she said, oh, you're from Madison. Deer Park is in Madison. And so she was all about it.
All right. So that's a place that the Dalai Lama can come hang out, talk to his past lives.
Yeah. But it's in Oregon, Wisconsin, which is just outside of Madison.
Yes. And actually it said Oregon, not like the state, Oregon. It is said Oregon. So we can say that with impunity.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a beautiful place, as I understand.
All right. So we've got that. So we love the Dalai Lama. But NXIVM sponsored a Dalai Lama trip to Albany, New York.
It's got to be cheap.
Well, right. Well, that's the thing. It wasn't just them that sponsored it. It was the organization by two people involved in NXIVM, Claire and Sarah Bronfman, who are two very wealthy and famous people. Their father, Edgar Bronfman Sr., was the head of Seagram's. And their brother, Edgar Bronfman Jr., is the chairman of the Warner Music Group. So he's surrounding himself, and we'll get more into them and their relationship with NXIVM in a little bit. But the thing is, this Keith Raniere guy, he had some credentials. He had some famous people helping him out. And he had these seminars and everything like that people were spending up to $10,000.
That's a good chunk of change.
That is a good chunk of change. And
that's more than the Tony Robbins one.
That is. I mean, but you don't get...
I might have looked into it.
And so let's, talk a little bit about what kind of stuff. NXIVM said that they had an amalgam of therapeutic techniques such as hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming. So Keith Raniere said he was trained in neuro-linguistic programming, and the president of his company was Nancy Saltzman. And she said she was trained in hypnosis and NLP and that kind of stuff too. So, they would use NLP and that's kind of traditional. So neuro-linguistic programming, it's almost like a hypnosis kind of thing or a subliminal. We talked a little bit about it in our episode on subliminal messages.
Yeah. Tony Robbins talks about that a lot in his books, actually. He talks about NLP and basically not so much using it for like brainwashing people, but for influencing people using your vocabulary. Certain words have different effects and that type of thing.
Well, they claim that using NLP, they can model the skills of exceptional people and allow anyone else to acquire those skills. NLP can treat phobias, depression, tic disorders, psychosomatic illnesses, nearsightedness, allergy, common cold, and even learning disorders. There hasn't been a lot of scientific evidence backing it up, so it might be some kind of like, if you're in that, well, the placebo effect, you know?
Right.
So it has the placebo effect of people getting into that. But the thing is, in the pickup artist community, they talk about using neurolinguistic programming.
Creepy.
They turn about like using program words.
Yeah.
And so if you ever read, there's a book by a guy named Neil Strauss. He wrote like the Marilyn Manson book. He wrote the Jenna Jameson book, the Motley Crue book. So he usually does like Rolling Stone articles and books on rock stars. But he also was kind of a nerdy dude that wanted to learn how to pick up women. So he entered the pickup artist community. He wrote a book about it called The Game. And in that book, they talk about using the NLP methodology and like program words and stuff like that to get that. And I don't know, it's not like mind control, because mind control assumes that people have no free will or whatever, but it is some kind of suggestion. Like it's a purposely implanted suggestion. Like when you're talking to a girl or whatever, you'd say things to make her imagine you naked or something like that. And even if it sounded gross at first, she still imagined you naked. And so there were these little kind of things like that. And he talks about it in the book, and it makes NLP it does make it sound like some kind of mind control thing. Like you're trying to use language to influence other people's behavior.
Right. When I read the Tony Robbins book, I think it was Personal Power or one of those.
Personal Power. I read it.
Yeah. It made it sound more like, here's a good way to be persuasive speaker, that kind of thing. Not like,
sure,
here's a way to tap into people's brains and like control them. So I don't know if there's levels of programming or whatever.
Well, some people think that NLP developed in the 1970s is straight up out of the CIA's MK Ultra program. So yeah, so they think that it was, developed through the CIA research, because so what happened in like brainwashing, and I think we talked about this before, was that in the Korean War, they were getting these films of like pilots who'd been lost over North Korea and stuff, and they were prisoners of war. And they were saying things, they were saying like they were denouncing the United States. They were saying, horrible things about the US. They were saying that we're war criminals, all these kind of things. And they were putting it like they were getting filmed by the North Koreans, and then the North Koreans were releasing that as propaganda. Also to the South Koreans to let them know that, hey, you're working with, it's all propaganda to demoralize the war effort and the South Koreans and everything. And so then, like, what were they doing? We started, like, the United States was like, well, what are these guys doing that they can make these people go against their training? They're trained to just say their name, rank, and serial number and to denounce the United States. And, we kind of get the movies like The Manchurian Candidate kind of get into that same kind of thing where people are being programmed to be activated at a certain time to do things. Like The Manchurian Candidate's all about somebody who's going to be activated to try and assassinate a political figure. And so this idea of brainwashing, it mainly came out the North Koreans did it basically through like sleep deprivation. They wouldn't let the pilots sleep, and then just, berating them into eventually getting them to say those things. Because these pilots really looked like it wasn't just saying like the United States is bad, everything, what we're doing is a horrible thing. These guys sounded emphatic. They were doing a good acting job if they were doing an acting job. And the whole idea was that brainwashing meant that they believed it. And so the CIA starts investigating this. Like, how can we start doing that to our prisoners of war? And of course, they experiment on American citizens.
Of course.
And we talked about that in their episode on MK Ultra and all that. In our episode on LSD, that was part of their program too, because they thought they could reprogram people using LSD. And so they think that this Project Monarch, which was part of that, related to MK Ultra, was creating these trigger words and neurolinguistic programming, this brainwashing thing. So people think that NLP is directly related to these CIA experiments. So is Tony Robbins really a CIA plant? Maybe.
I hope not.
Right. Otherwise, then I'm just a tool of the CIA because I always buy his books.
I love Tony.
He always puts me in a good mood. He does put me in a good mood.
Yeah.
And I do think that Awaken the Giant Within is a classic. And I'd recommend anybody reading that. Now, it's 20 years later or whatever. It's got some corny parts and stuff, but I do think everybody would get something out of it. And I guess I just got brainwashed into saying that.
And just ignore the part about the green drink.
Oh, yeah. This whole, like, when it comes to health and when it comes to finances, I don't know. But when it comes to just feeling good about yourself and how to forgive yourself and all those things, I think
positive thinking. I think power of positive thinking.
I think Tony does a good way of keeping those negative thoughts away. But yeah, don't, like, if he tries to sell you a green drink, don't go for it. So this was something they used in NXIVM. Was they use this kind of brainwashing. I mean, not really brainwashing, I don't think, but I don't know how they did it in there. But when people talked about spending $10,000 for these weekend seminars where they were, I believe that sleep deprivation was involved. They talk about showing them images of tragedies, like things that they, stuff that was really hard to watch. They would do that. So that's another element of programming. You guys remember Stanley Kubrick's great movie from the early 1970s, Malcolm McDowell's Clockwork Orange. Sorry, I almost couldn't think of a Clockwork Orange. And so in A Clockwork Orange, they have this thing that Malcolm McDowell goes through. And what is it called? The Ludovico technique. And he has to watch all of these quick, fast images of pain, horror, and and it switches to like bunnies and things like. They're trying to use the images to reprogram him. So the idea is, and people say that about when you watch horror movies or things. When you're watching a horror movie, your subconscious does not know the difference between reality and fiction. This is all, in theory, obviously. So the reason that you're watching a horror movie and all of a sudden you ever watch a movie and your palms start sweating?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That happens to me whenever somebody, like that scene in Mission Impossible 4, where Tom Cruise is outside the Burj Khalifa or whatever. There's this huge, not the Burj Khalifa, but it was one of the Malaysian building that's so monstrous,
Yeah.
And he does it, and I'm just sitting there, and my palms are sweating thinking about it. Now, I was never there. I didn't do it. I was watching something that it was a good stunt, but Tom Cruise was safe and everything.
Right.
But we got
good enough to convince you, though.
Yeah,
your adrenaline.
A physical reaction. My subconscious raised my adrenaline, started making my palms sweat, started making me feel uncomfortable just seeing something, and that's the Ludovico technique. What I believe, which is fictional in the movie, but that's the idea. You see all these images, and then your subconscious can't tell the difference. And because so much of our brain, let's say computing, is done in the subconscious, the idea is that the subconscious starts telling your frontal cortex or whatever, like, hey, buddy, why don't we start doing this? And it changes your mind.
Yeah.
It's the subliminal. You remember Saturday Night Live had the subliminal man?
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Nealon was the subliminal man. And so that's the idea that all of a sudden it's planting those ideas, and those ideas eventually you'll think they're your own. And that's the kind of stuff they say that what NXIVM was doing. Classic, brainwashing things. But people did have positive things to say about it. I mean, the people that went through the executive class, but it wasn't just the executive class, because there's multi-levels to it. NXIVM wasn't just you go there one time and you walk on hot coals or whatever, and then Keith Raniere puts his hand over your head and goes, boom, you are healed. It's a whole... It's like
there's a curriculum.
Yeah, it's like a multi-level marketing thing.
Yeah.
And you keep paying to get further and further into it. And then you try to get your friends involved too, and they keep paying as well. That's somewhat similar to Scientology in that way. Like Scientology, you have to keep paying for the new levels. So, and I have nothing bad. I mean, I don't know. I have nothing bad to personally say about Scientology, because I read Dianetics and I thought Dianetics was a good book. I didn't see the brainwashing stuff or anything.
Truly much better than Chris.
So I like Dianetics, but also I didn't get into I never saw the Xenu stuff. I just thought that was a good book, and I thought it was a helpful kind of thing. And I was a psychology major, so I got no hatred of psychiatrists like L. Ron Hubbard did or whatever. But I was like,
sure.
I found value in reading it, and I can see how you find value in reading something. And when you actually find value in something, like people might find that in those first NXIVM classes, obviously they did. The girl from Smallville, Chloe Sullivan, Allison Mack, she found so much value that she joined up. She got Kristen Kroik, who played Lana Lang in Smallville, involved.
Recruiting.
Yeah. They were bringing people in. And we'll talk about that stuff in a second. But the multi-level marketing thing comes from, and I don't know, Wendy, have you ever been to, like, between jobs or whatever in your youth, did you ever, like, go check out, like, a multi-level marketing presentation, like an Amway or like for supplements or something?
No, I actually, freshman year of college, Mike, you might remember this because it was running rampant in the dormitories.
Yeah.
I went to a couple. There was one that was like a book selling one.
Okay.
And there was also, I think, Cutco knives.
Oh, Cutco knives that sell to college students.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a roommate actually one of the years that she was really successful in it. And,
all right.
Yeah, we had a whole set of them in our kitchen. They're actually pretty nice.
No, I'm not saying they're not that nice. Well, it's like
I didn't buy any.
Kirby vacuums are great.
Yeah, exactly.
But, when you
I think
try to sell them to your grandmother.
Those fall under the MLM category, right?
Absolutely, they do.
And then also, of course, all of the ones now, like with the beach body and the party light candles and, oh my gosh, Leah Sophia jewelry, like... I'm getting hit left and right by people for these things.
And it's not even a bad thing. Like, I think I almost joined one called Excel. There's like a phone thing. Like, remember when long distance was a thing?
Oh yeah.
There was like a long distance phone service. And they're like, hey, you should totally, because I was calling I had a girlfriend back at home. I was calling my parents, all those things. Like, oh, I used a long distance. And they would try to get you to sell it and have other people sell it for you. And I almost bought in until Allison, my sister, who you've heard on this podcast many times, listeners, she like did a bunch of investigations. She's like, these guys are going to go out of business. This is trouble. And she like sent me this long email. I'm like, all right, I'm just not going to get involved.
Yeah. Well, and it's tempting sometimes, like the Beachbody one.
Yeah.
Because I was doing P90X and I was seeing results. So I'm like, oh yeah, I could see doing like promoting this, but then I can't. I just can't.
It's a different kind of thing. And some people are really good at the marketing and some people aren't. And so, the people that aren't really good at the marketing, I think, ruin it for the people that are.
Well, and the problem that I have with it, or the challenge for me, is I start to have less trust in my friends that are trying to
sell you something?
Yeah, because I'm like, are they inviting me to the party because they want me there? Are they trying to lure me into their, their web of, which is terrible. You don't want to be suspecting your friends of doing something like that. But at the same time, start hearing from someone you hadn't heard from in a really long time. And it's like, oh, hey, how's it going? Hey, I thought you might be interested. And it's like, ooh.
Well, it's funny. We talk about the multi-level marketing stuff, and that Keith Raniere had like a supplements and juices and bars and things like that thing that he did in the early 90s before he started the NXIVM program. So he already made money in creating a multi-level marketing thing that was investigated for a pyramid scheme. It was more like a pyramid scheme than it was people selling things. And you do see that. The thing is, it's not even that traditional corporations with their way of going through managers and presidents and executives and investors is even that different than any kind of scheme. It's just I think people get turned off when you have to try to call your grandma and be like, what do you think about this shampoo, grandma? Like, would you like like to buy this shampoo every month? And she's like, I've been using Pert Plus since 1953.
Okay.
So you're ruining it.
Yeah.
I'm not as offended by it because I think there is some value to it, but at the same time, it is, a lot of people can spend a lot of money in it and then make nothing back, and there's no promises and anything. And so a lot of people get screwed when they invest too far in the business.
Yeah. Well, I think, and nowadays too, with social media and everything, it's such a different world. Like, cause before, as I was saying, when we were in college, you had to like go to the meeting and sign up and buy the $800 sample book, whatever thing it was you were going to take door to door and try to convince people. And so it was a big investment. And you would really, I guess it probably would help people to put more of their energy into selling once you've dumped that much money into it. I mean, invested that much money into it.
Invested. Well, let's talk about how NXIVM did their investment.
Oh boy.
Because, he turned these executive seminars, this training, into a multi-level marketing. And people often call those things cults,
Yep.
Now, I took the Landmark seminar.
Oh, yeah. That one's definitely had some controversy around it.
And one of our friends was really involved in it and was like, I'll try it out, check it out. And you know what? I had a fun time. I had a great weekend. I thought the Landmark seminar was valuable and I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a positive experience for you. It sounded like motivating.
But then I wasn't, to like, well, you should come to the next one. And then, the next one's got a fee. And then there's another one, they got a fee. I'm like, well, I just, like, I think I got what I needed. And I had a nice weekend of self-reflection and that was good. But the thing is, these kind of things where you try to draw people in and then there's an offering given and then you are given an enlightenment and it's only for members. It's only for initiates. Well, this is something that's been around for thousands of years. So when we talk about, NXIVM, they're not that different than mystery religions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, what's a mystery religion? Well, the Greeks and the Romans had these different groups where you had to be initiated into the group in order to learn the mysteries of the religion, in order to learn anything about it. I mean, that's how like Scientology is too, where you have different levels, your operating level or whatever, that you have. And you pay more money as you get farther in and you learn more and more about the religion. That's why nobody knew about Xenu. And so if you guys aren't familiar with, Scientology, like the highest level, has this entire science fiction backdrop of this guy named Xenu who was banished from his home planet. And there's all these souls hidden in volcanoes all over the planet. And you're trying to free your particular soul that's attached to you. You're operating Thetan. Okay. So it's a weird science fiction story. Not that most religion backgrounds and not that most creation stories aren't, has some kind of science fiction element involved in it. I mean, even you think about the Adam and Eve story, and they don't tell us about Lilith in Adam and Eve. Adam's first wife is God creates Lilith before he creates Eve. And Adam's first wife is she's not submissive enough to him. And so she gets banished. And like in the Vampire Masquerade mythology, whatever, she becomes the queen of the vampires or whatever. And the idea that she was a woman that would not submit to a man, that's where they got the whole concept of the Lilith Fair. So that whole, that women-oriented...
The rebellion.
The women-oriented music festival of the 90s is named after Lilith. And I believe they use Lilith in one of the Tales from the Crypt movies too. I think she's the bad guy in the one where Dennis Miller, I can't remember the name. There was Demon Knight. Bordello of Blood. Bordello of Blood was the...
My gosh. Well, hey, don't forget she's also the ex-wife in Cheers. Frasier's ex-wife.
That's right. She is Frasier's ex-wife. BB Newirth with the black hair. She kind of... that the first time you hear that's actually the first time I read the story of Lilith. I imagined her in the role too. That's the funny thing.
That's hilarious.
But there's these different religions, and the most popular one are the Dionysian mysteries of ancient Greece and Rome. And why are they popular? Because Dionysus is the god of wine. And so this specific mystery religion, like people would be, they'd be initiated into it, and then they'd have these Dionysian parties that have wicked parties where everybody just gets wasted. And the cult of Dionysus, and they would try to find ecstasy. And so it's kind of like the Burning Man. Like there was a lot of wine involved in it. So and now it's Molly or acid or whatever. But that was part of the wine was part of doing it, but also just the letting yourself completely go, the animalistic. Remember Dionysus, Pan, I mean, he's got the goat legs. And so a lot of our traditional view of the devil is named after this Pan. I mean, is after that because the Christians are like, okay, let's pick the craziest thing about these pagan religions, and then we'll turn him into the devil. And so that's one of the mysteries. And that was popular because people would get ecstatic. They would go to dancing and all weekend and stay up late. And it's another thing. You feel ecstasy. You feel a religious experience. The combination of booze, whatever kind of herbs they were taking, of sleep deprivation, of dancing.
Accelerated friendship.
Right. Of hanging out with people all night long. I can't say that a Sunspot show is that different than a Dionysian rite.
Right.
And, there's a lot more to it that we'll have eventually talk about mystery religions. But the idea that we talk about multi-level marketing treated as cults or whatever. Well, this isn't new because the people coming to these rites and these rituals and the bacchanals and stuff, they were bringing offerings too. It just probably wasn't gold. It probably was just like bringing a six-pack to a party or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's not really anything new. But let's not defend NXIVM here. I'm not defending NXIVM. I'm just saying that these are parts of it and cults, and this has been part of our culture. And so we're wondering, like, well, how can people in the 21st century still get involved in this stupid stuff?
Right.
It's because it's part of being human, is getting sucked into groups, you know?
That's true.
And then doing stupid stuff for the group. So there's a scholar named Rick Ross, not like the rapper or the drug kingpin. He's a scholar named Rick Ross. And if my name was Rick Ross, I would pick like Professor Richard Ross or something like that instead of saying like, this is by Rick Ross, because I'm picturing the rapper. Like, hey man, Rick Ross in the house telling you about cults. And he writes a very interesting article. He's been talking about this place for a long time, saying it was a cult. In fact, NXIVM even sued him, his Ross Institute, because they said they were spreading, libel. And they were defaming them, saying that NXIVM was a cult. But let's go over the aspects of a cult from his article that was in the London Guardian. Number 1, a charismatic leader who increasingly becomes the object of worship as the general principles that may have originally sustained the group lose power. That is a living leader who has no meaningful accountability and becomes the single most defining element of the group and its source of power and authority. Keith Raniere, they put him on the level when people talk, when they talk about it, they talk about Keith Raniere, this guy, this 57-year-old born in New York, lived in Albany for a while. Well, this is where he set up NXIVM. That he's one of the smartest people in the world. That he's has an IQ of 240. All this kind of stuff. His name is the Vanguard. That's what they call him, the Vanguard.
Okay.
So his nickname, they call him like his title is the Vanguard. There's a whole level of hierarchy too. The woman under him is the prefect. So he's the Vanguard. Nancy Saltzman's the prefect. And then people wear sashes to show their rank inside the NXIVM organization.
Okay.
So when you go to these NXIVM events, you wear a sash to show your rank. So if you've been to so many NXIVM events, you wear a different sash. So that's another way of indoctrinating people like, hey, oh, your sash is blue? Mine's gold. It's okay. No, you can get gold in a couple of years. You just got to keep coming, keep spending money, and then you can be gold like me.
Right.
They treat him like he's brilliant. They talk about he's the smartest guy in the world, and they call him that. And then he's got a special group of women, like an organization inside of his organization.
Kind of like the Masonic.
Oh yeah. So, the Masons are a great example of an organization. and people obviously have associated the Masons with conspiracies for, hundreds of years, even though it's probably just a way for dudes to hang out and, when they can't go fishing, let's go to the Masonic Lodge. But the thing is, this organization called DOS, the person that was in charge of it was Allison Mack, who played Chloe Sullivan on Smallville. So this Smallville actress is... first of all, she's famous, and she's recruiting more women to get in this organization. And that's Keith Raniere's like secret sex organization.
Ew.
Okay. And so, right. So these are some more of this is part of the sexual exploitation of group members by their leader. And that's another aspect of being in a cult, is this economic, sexual, and other exploitation of group members by the leader. And so there was a woman named Sarah Edmonton, and she was a Vancouver actress. And that's where Allison Mack was recruiting people too, in Vancouver, because that's where they were shooting Smallville. So Vancouver was a place where they shot X-Files. All the Fox stuff was shot there in the 90s. So Vancouver's got a big industry because it's a lot cheaper than Los Angeles. So that's why you'll see a lot of the X-Files actors are all Canadians. Like they shot, 21 Jump Street up in Vancouver. It's all of the old stuff was shot up there. And Sarah Edmondson, she leaves the organization last fall. So October 27, 2017, article in the Canadian Broadcasting Company. She says she regrets inadvertently helping deliver Vancouver recruits to NXIVM, which she said eventually led her to travel to Albany, New York last spring, where she underwent a harrowing flesh branding on her abdomen.
That's horrible.
So it's a splinter group of ESP, of the Executive Success Program. And she loved the Executive Success Program. She was in it in 2010. She said it was positive, female empowerment and stuff. But then she gets in the secret group, and that's called DOS. And, DOS It's got this Latin name associated with it. I'm not even going to try to say it. It's Dominus, I am too. Dominus obsequious sororium, which loosely translates to Lord Master of the obedient female companions. So he's the only male member. Keith Rainier's the only male member. And it was a pyramid-style group, and the women would refer to the women above them as master. And of course, the vanguard is master of all of them. And they said a small tattoo would be involved.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the tattoo was really a branding.
Yeah, that's sick.
And was a branding that looked like Keith Rainier's initials and Allison Mack's initials.
And the description of how the branding was done is very disturbing.
Yeah. Sarah Edmondson says, we're looking at each other at the beginning and we had surgical masks on because the smell of burnt flesh was so strong. So, yeah, they get branded. It's a secretive organization. They're supposed to tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
They're on restricted calorie diets.
And they said that they were required to provide collateral of...
What's the collateral?
Well, it said it was like basically incriminating or embarrassing pictures of themselves, like naked pictures. And they said, if you tell anybody about this, we're going to release these to the public. So, they're basically agreeing to be blackmailed in exchange for keeping that secret.
Well, that's another some of the exploitation of the group members by the leader. That when we talk about that, that's another aspect of a cult, that there is no legitimate reason to leave. Former followers are always wrong in leaving, negative, or even evil. That's the turning them into others. Like the Scientology has even has like a special word for the people who are unfriendly to the thing. And that's the whole idea. Former members often relate the same stories of abuse and reflect a similar pattern of grievances. Cult. There are records, books, news articles, or broadcast reports that document the abuses of the group and leader. This is starting in 2003. There's an article in Forbes. Edgar Bronfman is talking about his daughters because Edgar Bronfman Sr., he takes the Executive Success Program and likes it. And then his daughters get involved. And then he's like, by 2003, he's like, this is a cult. And he says it to Forbes. And so there's stuff in 2003. The Dalai Lama's visit in 2009 is initially canceled because the local paper in Albany writes something about how this is a cult. And then in 2017, we have Sarah Emerson coming out saying there is he's got a sex group.
Oh, it just keeps getting worse.
Right. And that's the thing about these cult leaders, though. And this is, I think, what always gets them. It's either the sex or the money.
Right.
And so, maybe not in the case of Heaven's Gate, because they were kind of an asexual organization. Everybody, the whole idea, remember that, was that no sex.
Yeah.
But it's always these guys that can't keep it in their pants when they're surrounded by women. And they're like, I can have them all. That's David Koresh.
Yeah.
Where every woman there was a wife to David Koresh. That's kind of thing with the cult leaders. Like, well, I gotta test everybody out or whatever. The Walking Dead, the character Negan, has that same kind of thing where he's got a coterie of wives, and his wives come from the men that joined up. In order to survive, they have to give up their wife, and then he's got a group. So It's the same kind of thing, some kind of cultish thing, even on The Walking Dead. So we were talking about the sex part, but then there's a money part. So another aspect of a cult is no meaningful financial disclosure regarding budget or expenses, such as an independently audited financial statement. Any business would have to undertake an audit, at some point or whatever, if their taxes were up, or they probably have a group of senior officers who at least know the finances. But in some articles done about Keith Rainier, he's very cagey about where he gets his money. He's like, well, I don't make any money on this. I stay at friends' houses. And he's like, this is not a labor of profit for me. This is just a labor of love. And so when he's doing these interviews, he makes it sound like, oh yeah, that I'm not even making any money off this. But there's an article that the Bronfman sisters gave him $60 million to invest
my gosh.
in the commodities market because he's the smartest man in the world.
Wow.
He's convincing them that he's the smartest man in the world. And they gave him $60 million to invest with. And, he loses it all. He's losing, and that brings him even further into it.
Smart, huh?
And he keeps them going because he's got their collateral too. Because they're so into the organization. And this is what they say about Scientology too in that movie Going Clear, because they have these long confessions in these auditing sessions for Scientology where they'll talk to you about your deepest secrets, fears, everything. And they're all recorded. And then the big rumor is that, John Travolta's actually gay. And the reason that he's in Scientology still or whatever is that he's worried that they'll release all of his tapes of his confessions if he's actually going to, and that's that blackmail thing. And that's another absolute of being in a cult. And here's another cultish thing too. I mean, this is right from the article about Rick Ross, 10 things about being in a cult, yo. Followers feel that they can never be good enough. And this is particularly in the DOS. They call it the vow. They're taking the vow. Okay. These women who become part of his little sex circle. When they take the vow, he's telling them that they must overcome their inherent weaknesses and, Wendy, your female over-emotional natures.
Oh my goodness.
So
wow. People agree to this?
They must, because
I would never agree to that. I need my overwhelming female emotions.
It's 15 to 20 women he's having actual active sexual relations with.
Gross.
And then they must remain faithful to him. They're not permitted to discuss their relationships with him at all. I mean, that's it. They're with him. The course teachings say that men should have multiple sexual partners while women should be monogamous.
Nice. Real nice.
Well, then they're using biology for that too. They talk about animals and stuff. They say, like, according to biology, men need to spread their seed. Evolutionary. Yep. I mean, so they're using evolutionary evidence here. But that's the thing. They're never good enough. You call somebody master. You have an over emotional nature. You have to have a restrictive calorie diet because you're too fat. So Keith Raniere does this whole thing of how he keeps these women down. And that's what eventually they arrested him for this week in Mexico. They arrest him because he's for sex trafficking, that he took these women in the DOS over the border to Mexico, and that he's holding them there against their will. They are his mind-controlled sex slaves. And there's like a video of the cops taking him out and everything. And I'll find the video and link to it, because you see Allison Mack running after him.
Jeez.
Like, well, she's just going crazy. She's freaking out because they took the master. They stole the Vanguard. He's going to jail. And I mean, the stories about this guy, that the women in the DOS, they have to perform acts of care for their masters, running errands, clean their homes, prepare food, acts of self-denial. They have to take icy showers, stand for an hour at 4 a.m. That's getting back to the whole mind control thing. We talk about sleep deprivation. We talk about how they were breaking people down in mind control. And that's another aspect of being a cult, a process of indoctrination, of coercive persuasion or thought reform. The culmination of this process can be seen by members of the group often doing things that are not in their own best interest, like taking an icy shower is not in anyone's best interest. And so I'm just ticking down the things about this being a cult. And you're like, holy crap. This really, we often laugh about these different things. Like Tony Robbins and the people involved in this stuff. It's like being in a cult and people make jokes about it. This is an actual self-help cult.
That's the real deal.
It started off as something that, people might have found some kind of value in. Kind of like I read Dianetics and I'm like, hey, this book's pretty good.
It's truly much better than Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack Black.
No problem, Jables.
And so I think that's what really is the tragedy here is, and that's a lot of people's criticism of religion too, is that what happens is you get in on good intentions, you get in because something sounds good, and then you're taken advantage by people in the system who are using it to their own evil ends.
Yeah.
And Keith Raniere, here's the letter that he released on NXIVM this week. Like, he's had to have, he obviously had to say something. And by the time you're reading this podcast, he probably will have been his first court appearance.
Wow.
Because it's set for Tuesday, April 3rd, and we're recording this on April 2nd.
Wow.
Dear members, I am deeply saddened by the recent news relating to our organization. A number of key people involved and past friends. The picture being painted in the media is not how I know our community and friends to be, nor how I experience it myself. That's because you're having sexual experiences all the time. However, as an organization, as individuals, we felt it was imperative that we hire experts to ensure there's no merit to allegations. I feel it's important to clarify that sorority is not part of NXIVM and that I am not associated with the group. I firmly support one's right to freedom of expression, so what the sorority or any other social group chooses to do is not our business as long as there's no abuse. Like branding with your initials, Keith.
Sheesh.
Moving forward, we will communicate better. We will inform better. Sincerely, Keith Raniere. That's his jailhouse letter. that he sends out. And because obviously nobody's going to be signing up for a NXIVM thing right now. So the money's not going to be coming in.
Right.
So I don't know if the Bronfman sisters are going to keep, like, they might be free now to leave.
Yeah.
Unless
they don't want to.
Or whatever their collateral is something. It can't just be a naked picture, because
right, who cares?
You'd be like, okay, yeah, there's a naked picture. That's embarrassing. But it's not the end of the world. It's not a reason to not leave a cult.
Right.
It's $60 million. A naked picture is not that big of a deal. But that's the kind of sick stuff he was doing, allegedly doing. Now, we should say that none of this has been proven in court yet, because I know the NXIVM likes to sue people. But there's other, besides the whole idea that some of his mind control was related to MK Ultra, and they were doing those specific kind of, like, they were showing violent footage, women being murdered, women being dismembered as part of this experiment where they were hooked to brainwave machines and video cameras recorded their reactions.
So messed up.
He had a doctor, an Albany doctor,
Sheesh.
Dr. Porter, helped him out with this to do these kind of experiments. So he had his own evil doctor helping him
man.
too. So he's got the prefect under him. He's got his sex recruiter from TV. So he's got celebrity sex recruiter. He's got his, right-hand woman who's doing it. And then he's got his evil doctor. This really does sound like a super...
It does.
One of his ex-girlfriends or ex-slaves describes in 2012 that she said she was so broken psychologically, she gave up care of her child because he encouraged her to. She said he was truly brilliant, but in the way that brilliance is the closest thing to insanity. She said that he insisted she keep the body of her dead puppy in her garage freezer and look at it daily in order to deal better with death. Yeah. So, neglecting children, hanging out with your dead pets,
so messed up.
Right. That just doesn't seem like the kind of thing a nice cult leader would do.
No.
Because the thing is, there are some organizations that obviously started off as cults and now are part of the fabric of America. The Mormons, for one thing, Joseph Smith, the Church of Jesus Christ and the Church of Jesus Christ and the Latter-day Saints. I know some Mormons, and that's not even, not weird. But you wouldn't say they're a cult leader, but in 1850, you might say they're a cult leader. The Seventh-day Adventists, my father, my grandmother were Christian Scientists, and that was Mary Baker Eddy. And back in the 1800s, they were like, yeah, it was kind of, they thought of the Christian Scientists as a cult. In fact, at my parents' wedding, my grandfather's family was so excited that my father was going to marry a Catholic, not a Christian Scientist, that they didn't expect anybody from my father's side of the family to show up because they were all out of state. And my parents got married in Milwaukee, and the rest of the family was either in Chicago or further out in like Pennsylvania and stuff. That when they did get married, his side was completely full. They didn't expect any of those people to get there.
Wow.
So this is how they didn't like the Christian Scientists as much, and that they were like, oh, thank God Bob's not married to Christian Scientists. Right.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's the kind of thing that these things might start as cults, but then they become part of the fabric. And hopefully with the abusive ones, like in the Branch Davidians or like this NXIVM guy where he's branding women, they get caught before they do anything horrible. So that's the thing. And like, I'd say the last kind of paranormal or conspiracy related thing to this, and I don't even know if this article is that, this from the beginning of the year. This is a website that says that, like, defending Keith Raniere.
What?
This guy's defending Keith Raniere, which is hard. It's hard to do.
I would be curious as to how they would attempt to do that.
Right. Well, the way that people think on the internet.
That's true.
And this particular one, this guy is saying that Keith Raniere is being set up because he has proof that the Holocaust never happened. So it's like a Holocaust denier that's making, I don't know if he's making an alliance with Keith Raniere, but he's saying that the reason that he lost all that money in the stock market that the Bronfman sisters gave him is because they didn't want him to succeed because he's going to release the Holocaust information, that he's got proof. And they're doing whatever they can to shut him up. And he believes that the stories of Nazi brutality were propaganda. And anyway, it's just another one of those weird things. And also this guy says that the girlfriend that we were just talking about who had to look at the dead puppy, this guy says that girlfriend, Tony Natalie, his former girlfriend, the woman designated to have his avatar child, was Hermann Göring in a previous life. Hermann Göring was one of Hitler's inner circle. So I don't know where he got that information. But he says that Keith Raniere claims to have identified 6 lovers and disciples that haven't been connected to Nazis in previous lives. And that Keith Raniere said he was so intelligent, he could tell people who they were in past lives.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he had this group of people, like not just Tony Natalie, his girlfriend, he's got another group of people that were with him that Benito Mussolini, Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi minister of propaganda. Like there's this whole thing. And, I don't know why this guy's saying it. It sounds like it's all BS and an April Fool. But this came out in January, and it's just one of those things. This is the second time, I think, that I've seen on the internet someone write something about one of our people we profile on the podcast that we talked about, that they have some relation to having evidence that the Holocaust never happened. And that's why they're either using that to blackmail people. Like, since the Bronfmans are very notable Jews, that they would be, that there'd be something involved in, like, they wouldn't want this truth to get out. And it really is like, there's this weird undercurrent of Holocaust denial following these different paranormal topics or these different cultish topics on the internet. And it's weird. And even at the end of this weird article, the author thinks that it's probably all a load of BS. So there's probably not much to it, but there is a weird undercurrent on the internet of anytime a cult leader or somebody's being, put down, or the media jumps on them. It seems like the Holocaust deniers jump on that too and try to say that the media's, plotting against them and stuff. So anyway, just a weird little tidbit about articles we found about this NXIVM organization. So Keith Raniere now, will he become like that guy that ran that outlaw group of Mormons that was, that kept having the multiple wives? Will he become a character like David Koresh or Jim Jones, these cult leaders who go down as these great villains in history? And I think that's what we'll find out, starting tomorrow.
Yes.
Starting tomorrow when Keith Raniere goes to court. So, yeah, it's just, between conspiracy theories and, people really being into writing whatever they want to on the internet without any kind of journalistic integrity, there's a weird darkness that follows all this around. So I hope those girls get to go home.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Well, I got to say, it was quite an interesting topic that I knew absolutely nothing about. I hadn't even heard of it. And it's amazing to me that so many well-known, famous people were involved in this, and I hadn't heard a thing about it until you brought up the topic. And actually, the topic was a recommendation from one of our Patreons, who we'd like to thank for that.
That's right. This topic was suggested by one of our patrons, and we'd like you to be one of those too. So stay tuned after the song. We'll tell you how to do it. The song this week is inspired by some of those classic cock rock songs that talk about how men just can't handle women the way they are. And there certainly is a slightly misogynist undercurrent in a lot of the 70s songs, even the ones we like.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you say, Wendy, that a guy like Keith Raniere, if any of the stuff about the DOS is true, probably just couldn't handle ladies for who they need to be?
Oh, definitely. It would seem that way.
Yeah. So that's what the character in this song is like, where he just can't seem to handle an independent woman.
For shame.
And this song is called Bad Girl.
And you're so come, they take your temperature and count them. But I still you, I'm Menelaus and you're Helen. It take Captain Scott to find your heart. A place that's so far off the chart. There be monsters. You've been a bad, 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 bad girl. I'm gonna ride you like a mule. You've been bad, my pet, and it's time to tame this shrew. Bad, 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 bad girl. I'm gonna housebreak you. I'm sick of dealing with your lack of basic reason. You say that you don't have to care because you're bleeding. I bet housebreak you. You're changing moods, your attitudes, the way you look at other dudes. Give me time, I'll change you. Just a little more, I'll change you. You're overvain, you're cellulite, the way you dress on Friday night. I'm gonna change you, don't you worry now, I'll change you. I'll change you. You've been a bad, 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 bad girl. You've been a bad, 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 bad girl. You've been a bad, 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 bad girl. I'm gonna ride you like a mule. You've been at my head, and it's time to tame this shrew. Bad, 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 bad girl, and I'm gonna housebreak you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at OthersidePodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.
And it's that time of the program, Mike.
What's that time, Wendy?
It's the time where we acknowledge our wonderful Patreon supporters.
All right.
Yes.
I'd love to acknowledge our wonderful
Yes.
Patreon supporters.
And I want to thank them for making this show possible, giving us a little bit of support, both financially and in the form of ideas. As this show was,
Absolutely.
the topic was suggested by one of our community members. Thank you for that. And a special huge thanks to Dr. Ned.
Dr. Ned.
Yeah. He's pledging at a level where he gets his own shout out, and we love to do the shout out for Ned because Ned's awesome. He really is a great supporter of ours, and hopefully we'll see you at the show this Thursday, Ned.
Absolutely. And if anybody else is interested in being part of the community where we hang out, we talk about paranormal things, we take ideas, and they get the first access to all of our stuff, like a cool video that we just shot at the old Pittsburgh Haunted Hospital in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. That's the kind of thing in our Patreon community. You guys can do that at OthersidePodcast.com/donate.
Have a great week.
I've been using Pert Plus since 1953.